really sucks to be stuck somewhere, doesn't it? I mean, where do we end up? We ended up with you, no bus, stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and the guy left me.
Yeah, just completely left you there. Yeah, well, it could be worse. You could be stuck there with Dirt the Dodo.
True. I mean, he does sound like a doofus anyway.
Speaking of doofuses, let's see where we get you with this.
Okay.
Welcome back to My Daughter's Keeper, the horror actual play where I lovingly lead my daughter into the jaws of madness, one eldritch scenario at a time. Last time on Alone Against the Flames, our lone traveller, Professor Amanda, found herself stranded in the village of Emberhead, with nothing but a couple of suitcases and questionable instincts. Let's not waste any time and get straight back into the scenario. On your return, you find May is doing laundry and looks surprised to see you again. Forgot something. When you explain the situation, she offers to store your bags while you try and arrange alternative transport. You are grateful to relinquish the load. Nobody here has anything like a car. She strokes her chin and narrows her eyes. Maybe you could find someone with a horse and cart for your bags. I could ask around later. Try Mr. Winters in the village hall. He'll know if anyone will. Or ask him on the artisans. Their workshops are the first left on Silver Street. She reaches over and squeezes your wrist. Don't worry, I'll see you not sleeping on the street, money or no money. Thank May and turn to face the village. You wander the streets of Emberhead without any particular destination in mind. The village is built on a relatively flat upland with splendid views. To the north, the hazy tips of the White Mountains reach for the heavens. To the south, the sparkling waters of Lake Winnipesaukee touch the horizon. The village itself takes less than 5 minutes to cross from edge to edge. You arrive on the winding road to the west. The only other road leads to the south, following a lower ridge of land as it turns east. In the southwest of the village, an open grassy space borders a ruined church, its graveyard cresting the cliffs. To the northeast, the three main thoroughfares meet at a raised black metal structure. It looms stark against the blue sky. Right, well, you've got a choice then. You can ask about town at the general store. You can go and find the village hall, walk down the lower level and check out the eastern road, examine the large metal structure, explore the church, or go and find local people who have their own transport needs.
Go and see about the local transport.
Right, okay, we'll head to the general store a minute then. The general store is on a corner beside the main road just before it plunges to the south. The shopkeeper is a brisk, immense lady with a starched apron and strong shoulders. She looks hard at your unfamiliar face. Transport? There's a motor coach that comes through twice a week. Missed it, huh? Chuck brings my supplies every second Tuesday, but he's not due till next week. She shrugs. It seems Emberhead is content to keep its distance from the outside world. Now, if you have enough money, you could buy a couple of inexpensive items, but, you won't be able to get much in the way of weapons, except there's a dusty hunting knife, which you'd probably have to spend most of your money to get. But if you wanted to try and buy a few things, you could, but it seems that you're not going to get any help here.
I'll buy that old rusty knife.
Ooh, okay. You're going to buy the knife?
Yeah.
In that case, that is going to cost you, that's going to cost you 20 of your $30 spending cash.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Well, we'll make a note of that. You have the rather horrible-looking rusty knife. Okay, and that brings us back to our options of where you go next. So seek out the village hall, walk down the eastern road,
Look at the large metal structure, go to the church, or look for people who may need transport themselves.
Look for people what need transport themselves.
Okay, let's go and investigate the local artisans.
Not far from the Ledbetter house, on the north side of Silbury Street, there is an open courtyard. The rhythmic tattoo of a hammer seems to announce your approach. The courtyard is the busiest location you have yet seen in Emberhead. It is bordered by a ring of workshops. Some are brick buildings, some are only rough huts. A blacksmith ceases to hammer, thrusting something red and glowing into a bucket of cold water. A weaver looks up from his loom, blinking at you for a moment before returning to his shuttle. A potter, engraver, and carpenter each work in their space, exchanging friendly banter. You move among the artisans, chatting about their work. Eventually, you bring up the question of export. Some of them send occasional packages with Silas. Some restrict their custom entirely to the village. You receive no suggestions about alternative transport.
If you make a psychology roll...
Okay. 17.
17. Ooh, you said 17?
Yeah.
That's one off of an extreme. Well done. So that,
Yay.
yeah. Right, let's find out what happens there.
One of the workshops is shut up. When you stray too close to it, the repartee between the craftspeople becomes awkward, almost forced. Interesting.
Right, you did that, so you get a tick against your psychology score, because at the end of this, you'll get a chance to improve that.
Wahoo!
Okay, but we're back to our main options again now. You can seek out the village hall, go down the lower level to check out the eastern road, look at the metal structure, or go to the church.
Look at the metal structure.
Okay, let's go and have a look at this towering bloody thing.
You walk up the approach, the most central of the village's major streets. It points directly at the odd metal structure. As you emerge from the shade of nearby buildings, you are greeted by a magnificent panorama spread from the north to the southeast. The last colors of fall tint the hills a sleepy gold. The structure, by contrast, is made from uncompromising iron. Singed black, it supports an immense curved platform at the level of your head. Further struts snake up a central point. It looks like they may have been some kind of sculpture at one time, but now twisted and melted beyond recognition. An older gentleman passes, looking up at you with rheumy eyes.
"You here for the festival?"
He asks.
"That's the beacon. When they light it night after next, you'll be able to see for 10 miles around."
He gives a little nod of satisfaction, then moves on, leaning on his walking stick. Now you notice bundles of wood tied and stacked against the buildings nearby. Perhaps this festival would be an interesting diversion, but you really must head to Arkham as soon as possible.
Right, make a spot hidden roll.
Okay. 70.
Ooh, 70. That's a pass. That's a 70 on a 75.
Yes.
So that is a pass. Let's have a look.
As you walk away from the iron structure, you notice something strange about the construction of the village. All the wooden dwellings are concentrated in the west and southwest. To the east and northeast, closest to the beacon, the buildings are formed of dark brick and clay. Does this mean the settlement began at the beacon and spread west?
Right, that's another check. You can put that against your spot hidden, and we can see if we can upgrade that later on.
Okay.
And we're back. Right, we're back to choices. What have we got left? We've got the village hall, the eastern road, or the church.
Eastern Road.
All right, let's go check out the eastern road.
The air is fresh, and the walk down the lower ridge invigorating. You notice cultivated fields stretching through the lowlands around Emberhead, and among the crops some livestock, but no horses. Are you going to have to make your onward journey on foot? Further down, the road skirts the edge of the ridge and descends. There are a few scattered hovels here with signs of habitation. They are set a substantial distance apart. As you examine them, a door opens and an old man steps out. He wears a bedraggled suit, but carries a piece of cloth which he tosses over his head like a hood. As he does this, he sees you and freezes.
Okay, make a luck roll. Let's see if your run of good rolls continues.
65.
65 on a 75, that's a pass.
Yay!
The man looks up at the village, scanning the cliff tops. You get a brief flash of his face. There is something unsettling about it. Then he turns and walks away from the road. But as he does, he raises a hand and slowly beckons to you.
Do you want to follow the strange man? Or do you think that's an unwise idea?
That's an unwise idea.
Okay, right, let's move on then.
You turn back to the road and your core business, getting out of Emberhead and on to Ossipee. The ridge gives you a good viewpoint from which you can see the course of the road. It winds with the hills, disappearing into woodland for a while before emerging further on. You lose sight of it somewhere towards the second patch of woodland. By your best estimation, that is at least 6 or 7 miles distant. You see no other settlements or traffic. It may be worth taking a chance and walking. The weather is still mild, but you will need supplies before you attempt it.
Okay, we are pretty much out of options now. You have 2 choices. You can seek out the village hall, or you can go to the church.
I'll go to the church.
You cross the street towards the church. As you glance to your left, your gaze alights on the large metal structure. Something bothers you about its positioning. You back up and look again. Yes, Emberhead's central thoroughfare points directly at the structure. This seems too precise to be a coincidence. You press on and draw into the shadow of the church. The building is in a sorry state. The top of the steeple is missing a ragged gash of splintered boards marking its absence, and the floors beneath it have collapsed. It appears to have torn through the roof in the main building as it fell. Only the back half is still intact. The white paint which once covered the church has yellowed and peeled. It seems safe enough to explore the rear section. Old pews are stacked against the wall, choked with mildew. Most of the windows are broken. You guess this church has been disused for about 20 years. There is little more to interest you.
All right, let's make a ride roll, and you can have a bonus dice for this, which means your tens, the percentages, if you roll that dice twice, you can choose then the lower of those 2. Okay?
Okay.
Let's go for it. What's that?
41.
That's 41. If you want to roll the 41 again, just in case you get a better score.
81.
Oh, no. 41.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't help you very much because you've got a base ride of 5, so that's a fail. Which, yeah, you don't get anything from that. Yeah, that just takes you straight back. Right, we're down to our last option.
The village hall backs against a cliff at the east end of Silbury Street. It's the largest building you've seen so far in Emberhead. It is, however, locked and shuttered. You walk around it, peering through the gaps in the shutters. There seems to be one large room, presumably for community meetings, and a smaller annex that serves as an office and archive. One of the windows is bricked up. Back at the main door, you can see no posted opening hours.
Mr. Winters doesn't open up mornings this time of year,
Says a grey-garbed woman passing by.
Best come back in the afternoon.
You ask whether the office has a telegraph.
Dunno.
She shrugs. Who would we call? You will have to try again later. Your morning exertions have left you hungry. You roam the streets of Emberhead looking for substance. There is nothing resembling the busy cafes of your hometown, or anything that might be called a restaurant. It's beginning to look like you have to get supplies from the general store when May Ledbetter comes down the street with a girl trailing in her wake. This must be Ruth. As she notices you, she races past her mother and approaches you with a smile. This is a different Ruth from the shy creature of last night. She reaches you, she stops and stretches her arms up in celebration. She looks up into your eyes. Abruptly, the smile drops from her face, and she looks several years older.
Get out before festival, she hisses. Get out!
She blinks hard, and then scuttles back towards her mother. May approaches, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulder, and smiles. How are you getting on? Have you found transport? Startled, you explain the frustration of your situation. I try Mr. Winters into the village hall. He's always there in the afternoon. You'll be hungry by now. Help yourself to the food in the house. The door's not locked. You glance at Ruth, where she has squirreled herself behind her mother's leg. Her eyes implore you to silence.
Right, well, do you want to ask Ruth about what she said, ask May about what Ruth said, or do you say nothing at all?
I'll ask May what she said.
Oh, okay. Let's dob in the kid then.
You ask May why Ruth wants you to leave town. She gives her daughter a hard stare. Ruth looks at the ground. May says, Ruth doesn't like it when I have guests in the house, but she needs to learn that we don't always get what we want in life. Sometimes we have to do things that we might not best like, but they're necessary all the same. May shakes her head at you and then nods back in the direction of the house. You catch a hint of emotion in those green eyes. You take your leave of the Ledbetters and head towards their house. The door opens easily. In the low kitchen, you make a meal from stodgy bread and leftover stew. A little window offers a view to the mountains. If you learned one thing this morning, it was that Emberhead streets hold little to occupy the visitor from out of town. But there are still about 5 hours of daylight remaining. You could take some provisions and bare essentials from your luggage and set out in the hopes of reaching another settlement before dark. Or you could ask advice from this Mr. Winters.
Right, we have another choice. You can prepare to walk out of town, or you can head to the village hall, because it's now afternoon.
I'll go to the village hall.
The village hall overlooks the lower north ridge of the village. You walk along Silbury Street to find it, conscious of the oppressive black metal structure framed at the end of the road. The shutters of the hall are open, and some of the windows left ajar. There is no knocker, but a little bell over the entrance tinkles as you push the front door. Inside, a sturdy door on your right is marked Private. To your left, an opening leads through into a bright room. You take a few steps inside, benches lining the walls, and there are 2 notice boards mounted between the windows.
You can examine the notice boards, or you can knock on the door.
I'll look at the notice board.
The floorboards creak beneath you as you cross the room. You feel a slight spring in your step. Perhaps this room is used as a gymnasium for the village children. One notice board appears to be for the adults of the community, and one for the children. The former looks neglected, featuring handwritten advertisements for household items and a yellowed notice about telegraph pricing. There is nothing about the festival. The children's notice board has a schedule for weekly crash services, a number of paintings obviously done by the children themselves. Most are incoherent, though colourful. As best you can tell, they depict fireworks or perhaps the tale of Joseph from the Book of Genesis. One has lost a pin and hangs upside down. It shows a giant bird attacking Emberhead, or it might simply be that the artist has not yet mastered the subtleties of scale.
Right, make a spot hidden. Let's see what happens.
Okay. 6.
Wow, 6 on 75. That's an extreme. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Right, okay, let's find out what happens with your successful.
As the afternoon sun hits the floor, you notice something curious. The boards under the window are newer than the boards in the center of the floor. The frames also show sign of having been replaced in the recent past. Perhaps the rain leaked in and rotted the wood. The door scrapes behind you. A middle-aged, respectable man appears in the doorway.
May I help you?
You explain you are visiting on May Ledbetter's recommendation.
Ah, well, I'm Clyde Winters. I'm not sure I can help you, but would you care for some coffee? I'm partial to a cup in the afternoon.
He gestures to the open door behind him. This seems like a worthwhile opportunity, and you are a little thirsty. You step through the door marked private. The other side of the village hall is a marked contrast to the public space. The room is compact, lined with shelves of books and file alcoves. One corner is reserved for a tiny pantry and what is presumably a water closet. You study Mr. Winters as he fills the percolator. Although thin on top, his hair is oiled and neatly swept back. His suit is a sober affair and well-tailored, even if the cut is a little old-fashioned. A lesser man working alone might have loosened his bow tie for comfort. On the desk against the opposite wall, you notice what looks like a telegraph set.
You've got another choice of what you do here. You can ask about the telegraph, or you can make small talk with Mr. Winters first.
I'll ask about the telegraph.
The telegraph, As much as we value our isolation, we do need the link sometimes. Were you hoping to send a message? I must apologize. The line has been down for 2 weeks. I reported the fault, but of course they're not so speedy when the problem lies in a rural area. I'm expecting a repair in the day after next. I do appreciate how frustrating this must be. The coach is due in, 3 days? But I think he's going west. Perhaps you might engage a wagon. One of the farmers might. You explain you have asked a few of the residents already, but to no avail. I'll tell you what. Winter pours you a steaming cup of coffee. The dark liquid smells rich and strong. When the repair crew arrive, I'll ask them to take you back with them. How would that be? They might want $1 or 2 to grease the wheels. The day after tomorrow. It's less than ideal, but it's the first real opportunity you've had.
Right, do you want to thank Mr. Winters and leave, or do you want to ask about his library?
I'll thank him and leave.
As the light fades, you return to the Ledbetter house and eat a light supper. May is unusually taciturn. Ruth's eyes flick to yours several times during the meal. There is an urgency there you cannot quite interpret. Afterwards, May ushers the girl into their room. You have been in Emberhead for barely 1 whole day, and already you feel confined by it, both geographically and socially. The evening seems to offer little.
Right, another choice. Do you want to do some stargazing, attempt to speak to Ruth, and you don't have any previous appointments with anyone else you've met, so that's not a choice for us to make. So yeah.
I'll talk to Ruth.
In time, May returns to the kitchen and busies herself clearing up. To speak to Ruth, you will need to get May to leave for a short while. You help with the dishes and try to think of some ruse. In time, an idea comes to you, and you ask about Silas and his friends in the village. May narrows her eyes. He knows Troy on the other side of town, she says. Not sure I'd call them friends, but like an old feuding couple more. But he probably spent last night at Troy's place. You ask May if she could visit Troy, and ask if Silas mentioned any plans to return. May looks dubious. Right now? She asks.
Ooh, time for another roll. Now, you can choose to charm, persuade, or fast talk, and looking at your character sheet, you've got really good fast talk. You could fast talk or persuade her, I think would be your best options there.
I'll persuade her.
Okay, right. You want to get at least 50 then. Let's see how that roll goes.
7.
Cool. 7 on a 50. That's extreme.
Well, I suppose it'll only take a few minutes. May fetches a coat and heads out into the night. You give her time to get clear, then rap on the bedroom door. Nothing comes but silence. Then feet pad across the floor and the door opens a few inches. Ruth's eyes stare through the gap, glancing from left to right. You explain her mother has left the house and asks what has been bothering her. These eyes flick up to stare at you.
It's tomorrow, she whispers. Same as every year. They took my dad. They'll take you. If you let them.
The conviction in her eyes is chilling. You press her.
Who is she talking about? All of them. Everyone. They've been watching since you got here. You're marked.
Her voice is hollow.
1 year, when I'm older, they'll take me.
You hear footsteps approaching from outside. Ruth's eyes flash, and the bedroom door slams. You turn back to drying the dishes. May enters en route, coat. That man is a waste of time, she hisses, and heads through to the bedroom. The familiar surroundings of your guest room are becoming constrictive. The neat bed, small wardrobe, and dressing mirror have the feel of a prison cell about them. What are you still doing here in Emberhead? Your new life is elsewhere. You lie on the bed and stare at the small crack in the ceiling. You turn over the day's events, thinking through the little details you've spotted. You are certainly weary from the elevation and the fresh air, but do you still feel safe here?
Right, well, simple choice. You can either let yourself fall asleep or you can stay awake.
I'll stay awake.
Okay, stay awake.
Sleep presses down on you. You blink it back and sit up, trying to think your way through the situation. Everywhere in Emberhead seems to be working to stop you leaving. Perhaps the answer is to strike out at first light, to walk as far and as fast as you can. You can always return for your possessions, and if you lose them, you have nothing so precious that it could not be replaced. A tiny creak draws your attention on the other side of the room. Slowly, almost silently, the doorknob is turning.